book of Genesis holds mysteries that go beyond what many imagine. Among accounts of creation, genealogies, and divine covenants, there is a nearly forgotten story, a titanic war that shook the earth during the time of Abraham. Now imagine this: 4 kings, leaders of powerful nations, marching into battle against an army of 10,000 giants. Could these be the same Nephilim, the descendants of fallen angels mentioned in ancient texts? Who were these kings? Which civilizations participated in this war? And more importantly, why was this battle erased from history? The truth is even more astonishing than you might think. Ancestral records speak of the existence of 3 distinct races of giants, each with unique abilities and characteristics. These creatures, described as colossuses towering over any ordinary man, were thought to be the last remnants of a forgotten era. Want to know how this war unfolded and the secrets it hides? Then prepare for a fascinating journey. Like, comment your thoughts, and share this video so more people can discover this hidden story that has been concealed for millennia. The truth is about to be revealed, and it may change everything you know about human history. The Great War in the days of Abraham. 10,000 giants against 4 kings and their armies. The Great Battle, a colossal event lost in the shadows of time. A monumental war fought in the days of Abraham, where mighty kings clashed in a confrontation that would echo through eternity. But there is something many are unaware of. This was not just a war between men. There was something more, something gigantic. The book of Genesis, in its 14th chapter, tells a fascinating account of this ancient war, describing the battle between 4 kings and 5. However, hidden in the lines of this biblical narrative, there is a surprising truth. This war also involved a legion of 10,000 giants. Who were these kings? What civilizations were behind this conflict? And, most intriguingly, who were these giants? Where did they come from? And what happened to them after this battle? Now I invite you to dive into this enigmatic reading of Genesis chapter 14, where the details of this war are revealed. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that they made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Birsha, king of Gomorrah, with Shinab, king of Admah, and with Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. All these were joined together in the Vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shaveh Kiriathaim, and the Horites in their Mount Seir, unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they returned, and came to En Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazazon Tamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the Vale of Siddim, against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the Vale of Siddim was full of slime pits. And the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner. and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him, at the Valley of Shaveh, which is the king's dale. As you can see, the events narrated are of an impressive magnitude, but there is still much more to be revealed. Now let us explore the identity of each of these kings, their kingdoms, and the role they played in this battle. And most importantly, let us understand the true secret behind the three races of giants who participated in this epic confrontation. The first king mentioned in this enigmatic account is Amraphel. But who was he really? What was his true role in this hidden war of antiquity? In ancient texts, his name appears in different forms: Amraphel in Hebrew, Anaphel in Greek, and Amraphel in Latin. But his origin goes far beyond the words. It is rooted in a legendary land shrouded in mystery, Shinar. Shinar, a name that resonates through the millennia, is an ancient designation for Sumer, the primordial land of great kings and the first known civilizations. This region, also identified as Babylon, was a center of power and knowledge where, according to some traditions, the first human empires flourished under the guidance of ancient gods. In the verses of Genesis 14, Amraphel appears as one of the four kings who marched to war alongside Tidal, king of nations, Arioch, king of Elasar, and Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. Together they devastated Sodom and the neighboring cities in the bloody conflict of the Vale of Siddim. But there is an even more surprising detail. They faced colossal creatures, beings that conventional history insists on erasing from humanity's memory. But who was Amraphel really? Some scholars believe that this name conceals an ancient Sumerian title. Some suggest that he was Guntar Rastu, a Sumerian monarch whose name can be translated as the Great Person. This connection is based on the Sumerian linguistic structure, where the word Guntar would correspond to the Am prefix of the name Amraphel in Hebrew, while Rapal would have evolved into Rastu. If this theory is correct, then Amraphel was not just an ordinary king. He may have been one of the last rulers to maintain contact with the forbidden secrets of antediluvian civilizations. And more, his alliance in this war may have been motivated not just by political reasons, but by hidden knowledge dating back to the times of the giants and the Nephilim. Among the great leaders of antiquity, one name stands out from the shadows of history: Chedorlaomer, the enigmatic king of Elam. His dominion extended over the land of the Elamites, one of the oldest Semitic peoples, direct descendants of Shem. The region he ruled corresponds to what we now know as Iran, but his influence stretched far beyond geographical borders. In ancient Elamite records, he is mentioned as Kudur Lagamar, a title suggesting a power and presence that echoed through the corridors of time. But Chedorlaomer did not rule alone. Among the kings forming his alliance, we find Arioch, the sovereign of Elasar. The exact location of his kingdom remains shrouded in mystery. Some historians suggest that Elasar could have been located in Asia Minor, perhaps in Cappadocia or Antioch, lands known for their ancient fortresses, and for having been the stage of empires that rose and fell over the centuries. Other theories point to an even more obscure kingdom, lost in the mists of time, where rulers like Arioch played crucial roles in the events that shaped entire civilizations. What do these figures have in common? These are names that emerge from the depths of history, but carry with them a weight that transcends simple mention in ancient texts. They were kings, yes, but also key pieces in a much larger game, a game of power, conquests, and secrets buried beneath the ruins of the past. Tidal, the enigmatic king of nations, known as Tidal in the original Hebrew, ruled a land surrounded by mysteries. One intriguing detail about his domain lies in the very word, which in Hebrew and Phoenician means nations, while in the Semitic context it can be translated as peoples. This linguistic peculiarity raises a fascinating hypothesis. Tidal may not have been just a king of a single territory, but a sovereign who ruled a confederation of tribes, an alliance of ethnically distinct peoples, united under a single domain. This idea fits with the theory put forward by historian David Rohl, who suggests that Tidal might be identified with Tidal, a Hurrian ruler who controlled the Zagros Mountains, a strategic region between modern-day Iran and Iraq. If this correlation is true, the enigma of Tidal deepens even further, as it would mean that he was at the helm of a multicultural empire at the crossroads of various ancient civilizations. Putting this theory in a broader perspective, the alliance of kings, mentioned in ancient accounts, presents a complex tapestry of nations. Amraphel, king of Shinar, associated with the Sumerian domain in the heart of Mesopotamia. Arioch, king of Elisar, possibly linked to the region of Cappadocia in Asia Minor. Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, a Semitic monarch, descendant of the Elamites, in the territory that now corresponds to Iran. Tidal, king of nations, who, in light of the evidence, may have been a Hurrian leader commanding a coalition of nomadic peoples and warrior tribes. Among the most enigmatic accounts of the Old Testament is an event of epic proportions, a titanic war between 4 kings and a colossal army of 10,000 giants from 3 distinct races. Chapter 14 of the book of Genesis describes a conflict that transcends mere territorial disputes. This is a battle against beings of superhuman strength, descendants of mysterious lineages whose origin is lost in the mists of time. The 3 giant peoples who faced the 4 kings and their armies were the Rephaim, the Zuzim, and the Emim. Each of these races had unique characteristics, but they all shared something in common: their terrifying stature and reputation as invincible warriors. Rephaim, the colossi of Ashtaroth Karnaim. The first giants mentioned in the narrative are the Rephaim, an ancient race of imposing beings whose massive bodies could reach up to 5 meters in height. They were described as colossi, entities whose mere presence instilled terror. In Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Rephaim were the first to confront the armies of the 4 kings. The battle was fierce, as the giants' enormous size and strength made it nearly impossible to bring them down. However, after a brutal clash, the Rephaim were defeated, marking the first step in the king's campaign to conquer the lands inhabited by these titanic beings. The identity of the Rephaim remains shrouded in mystery. Some believe they were descendants of the Nephilim, the giants mentioned in Genesis 6, possibly survivors of the Great Flood. Zuzim, the race hidden in the shadows of time. The Zuzim were the second race of giants mentioned in the text. Unlike the Rephaim, the Bible reveals little about their origin or physical characteristics. They appear enigmatic, as a monstrous people who inhabited the region of Ham. Their name quickly disappears from the scriptures, as if their presence was a secret that few should know. Led by Chedorlaomer, the 4 kings marched against the Zuzim, and a new massacre ensued. The brutality of the war against these colossal beings echoed through the generations, but few records detail the true extent of their strength. Were they such terrifying warriors that their existence had to be erased from historical records, or were they the last survivors of a forbidden lineage whose memory was deliberately suppressed? Emim, the monstrous guardians of the lost lands. The third race of giants faced by the four armies were the Emim. The very meaning of their name, in ancient Hebrew and Aramaic, indicated their terrifying nature, the monstrous or the dreadful. Their territory stretched over strategic regions, being mentioned as inhabitants of lands through which the Israelites passed during the Exodus. The Emim were compared to the legendary Anakim, another race of giants mentioned in the Bible. The Moabites considered them equivalent to the Rephaim, suggesting that they belong to the same lineage of ancient titans. Their tusks, their colossal hands, and their massive bodies instilled fear even in the most well-trained armies. But despite their devastating strength, they too were brought down by the coalition led by Chedorlaomer. The Bible does not provide detailed accounts of this war, but its significance is undeniable. In any case, the war against the 10,000 giants marked one of the most extraordinary moments in the hidden history of humanity, a battle not only for territorial supremacy, but for control of a world where giants walked among men until they were eradicated by the forces that would shape the future of civilizations. The battle was, without a doubt, monumental. On one side, the colossal Rephaim, Zuzim, and Emim, beings of titanic stature and colossal strength. On the other, the four kings of the earth and their armies, determined to eradicate this ancient threat. Despite the giants' physical advantage, who could reach between 4 and 5 meters in height, the human armies prevailed. However, this victory came at a high cost. The overwhelming number of mortal warriors against the 10,000 giants made the difference on the battlefield, but the struggle was brutal and bloody. Records do not clarify how the four kings were able to defeat such a terrifying force. Now, I want to know your opinion. Did you know about this forgotten war that took place in the days of Abraham, an epic clash between men and giants? What do you think of this story? Leave your comment and share your thoughts. This was another chapter in our series exploring the giants of Scripture. If you enjoyed it, be sure to check out the other videos, which will be available at the end of this one. May God bless everyone. See you soon.